Queen Nzinga was one of those women that you didn't want any problems with. Nzinga was known for her battles against the Portuguese in Angola. She fought against slavery until the day that she died. According to Portuguese records, she died December 17, 1663. She was queen of Ndongo and Matamba. She was a rider. She was the daughter of King Kiluwanji, and he put that warrior spirit in her. She was trained and very skilled in martial arts and in weaponry. This woman was a beast. She was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck, and during these times, this was a sign of power. At birth, a lady predicted that one day she would grow up to be queen. But everyone else thought her brother Mbande would be king one day. At an early age, Nzinga soaked up game from her father every day, all the way up until his death in 1617. Her brother Mbande took over as king, and he was always extremely jealous of his sister. This dude Mbande killed Nzinga's son because he felt like once the son grew up that he would try to assassinate him and take over the throne. Then after he killed her son, he ordered the sterilization of Nzinga to make sure that she never has a kid again. Now after this, she fled to Matamba because she feared for her life. Later, he reached out to his sister because he needed her assistance. During the war against the Portuguese, he was getting destroyed. The Portuguese was giving him that work, and he needed his sister's assistance because she spoke their language. Nzinga was hesitant at first, but then she agreed because she loved her people. She loved Ndongo, which is Angola today. She wanted to save her homeland, so she accepted, under one condition. She wanted to be put in a position of power. She accepted, and Mbande granted her wishes. When she arrived and she went to the meeting with the Portuguese, all of the men were sitting down during this meeting. During the 1600s, it was extremely disrespectful to not offer you a seat. During this time, this was the equivalent of spitting in someone's face in 2020. They gave her a mat on the floor to kneel instead of sitting down. So with this act of blatant disrespect, she stared at him, and she made one of her servants get on all four while she sat on his back during the meeting. This was about a peace treaty. They both agreed on the peace treaty. The conditions were, from here on out, the Portuguese, they will call off the troops if Queen Nzinga forces the Ndongo people to convert to Christianity. Everyone had to get baptized, and from that day forward, they make trades with each other. According to some accounts, they say after the meeting with the Portuguese, Queen Nzinga made her servant stand up, and she killed him and said the queen doesn't use the same seat twice. Once she returned back to Ndongo, it was a celebration. Everybody praised her. Mbande watched on, embarrassed, full of rage and jealousy, and now known as the king that failed him, couldn't take it any longer. He ended up committing suicide by drinking poison. Now Nzinga was in charge. She was queen. Nzinga had a nephew named Kaza, who was the son of Mbande. Years ago, he fled Ndongo and he joined up with the rival squad. See, it was hard to touch those Ngala people. They kept a low profile.
During the 17th century, there lived groups of marauders and mercenaries known collectively as the Ambengala. They were notorious across the continent. Some stories even claim that they were cannibals, who engaged in ritual sacrifice and stole adolescents to fill their ranks. But despite their reputation, both the Portuguese and the locals sought the Mbangala's service. Nzinga herself had fought beside them more than once. And it was into the Mbangala's care that her brother placed Nzinga's nephew, confident perhaps that there was no safer place for the boy to be from Nzinga. But always crafty and relentless, Nzinga had an idea. She sought out the leader of the Mbangala band and made a great show of expressing her love. Despite his initial misgivings, her quarry submitted to her affections, and the two arranged to be married. But before the ceremony even concluded, Nzinga took a hold of her brother's son, slew him, and threw the boy's corpse into a river, declaring to all that she had finally avenged her son. And with that, her throne was safe. Meanwhile, Nzinga's Portuguese contacts knew nothing of these matters. Having only seen Nzinga at her most agreeable, they had no cause to think of her as a threat.
She started flirting with one of their top people. She finessed this dude and even convinced him to marry her. At their wedding ceremony, she spotted her nephew Kaza. Seen him, stabbed him, killed him. She dropped the Christian beliefs with her people, and the slaves from the Portuguese, if they fled to Ndongo, she set them free. This fired up the Portuguese. Now they were in a rage, and the war was back on. But she knew that they didn't have the power to fight the Portuguese head on like that. So she fled to Matamba, and she took as many people as she could with her.
Surrounded by enemies, Nzinga needed a new plan. So unable to expel the Portuguese, she developed a strategy to suppress their expansion. The first tactic was political and economic. She maneuvered the remains of her forces between the Portuguese and the lands where they conducted slave raids. And second, she reached out to Catholic missionaries in Angola, claiming she wanted to replace local traditions with Catholic beliefs. Now, whether this newfound piety was sincere is hard to say. But if it was an act, it was a convincing one. Catholic missionaries became enthralled with Nzinga, some even volunteering to serve as her political intermediaries in Africa and Europe. Whether moved by Nzinga's embrace of their faith, or simply relieved to see their enemies so humbled, the Portuguese opened peace negotiations. In 1656, they freed her sister, and, after many long years, acknowledged Nzinga as the undisputed ruler of Matamba. And that is when Nzinga changed tactics yet again, because now that she was at peace with Portugal, she could finally settle old scores. The Mbangala, the marauding warrior society that had sheltered her brother, were still operating. Nzinga had mixed opinions of them, sometimes even enlisting them as allies when they weren't fighting for the Portuguese. But it was time to end that dance. Despite being old enough to be a great-grandmother to some of her soldiers, she personally led a campaign into their lands, decapitated their leader, and brought his head to the Portuguese governor.
According to some accounts, Nzinga traveled with about 50 men, and at night, she chose 2 of them to have a fight with each other for the right to lay in bed with her at night. She later teamed up with the Dutch and ended up taking Ndongo back from the Portuguese. She continued to have many battles with the Portuguese, and she always fought against slavery. She earned just as much respect as any man can earn. She was a warrior, and she always demanded a certain level of respect. One time in battle, she cut the head off one of the leaders of the Ngala people. Now the Ngala people were some serious, vicious warriors. Her resistance to colonization and slavery as it was practiced by the European powers spread far and wide. Her legacy has an American connection. The Portuguese name Angola comes from the term king, or Ngala. It has been said during the 18th and 19th centuries, roughly 7 out of every 10 Africans imported into Charleston, South Carolina, came from the area called Angola near the Congo River. The language patterns of the people who occupy the sea islands off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina are very close to the structure of Ambundu, a Bantu language, the same one spoken by Nzinga. The Sea Island slaves called themselves in their language Gullah, and that's derived from Angola. In South America, the Portuguese colony of Brazil received a large number of Angolan captives. In modern-day Brazil, descendants of these slaves still hold ceremonies to celebrate Nzinga's resistance against slavery. Nzinga sent warriors to Brazil to organize a rebellion. And one of her warriors named Zumbi escaped from a plantation and set up a colony for runaway slaves in Brazil. Queen Nzinga ruled for 37 years. And when she ruled, she demanded her respect. After she passed away, everything crumbled. Queen Nzinga was born 1582, and she passed away in 1663. She passed away in her sleep. Queen, warrior, Queen Nzinga. Please make sure you follow the History with No Chaser Facebook page, the Instagram page, and subscribe to the kids channel. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, make sure you subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comment section.
Her cultural campaign, along with her record of military victories, had shielded her lands from foreign occupation. And even on her deathbed, she begged her counselors to continue her efforts, to ensure that the country became what she hoped it would be, and to allow a priest to bury her in the Christian manner. And so passed Queen Nzinga, a woman who, despite being one of the best documented rulers in early modern Africa, still presents a puzzle. Her record, from ambitious noble to guerrilla fighter to consummate diplomat to religious reformer, is still haunted by myths conjured by her enemies, not to mention a few constructed by Nzinga herself. In Matamba, she had built a state on equal footing with the burgeoning Portuguese colony, and in doing so, created a legacy of pride and self-rule that people still celebrate in modern Angola. They've printed coins in her image and made films of her exploits. And in the city of Luanda, where her opulent embassy met the Portuguese, stands a bronze statue of one of the first to fight for Angola's freedom, Queen Nzinga.